But we spent a long time on that series, so we will move swiftly on to Shaxy versus SamuelTsao, the final match of the day. And for me, on paper, should be favoured for Shaxy. And I'm going to be honest, just based on his play, I think Shaxy has played solid not only this season, but also last season as well. Whereas SamuelTsao has been, I think, uninspired is the key word I would use. Now having his Warlock shielded, his Hunter banned out, and Shaxy shielding his Druid and having his Warlock banned out, which means Shaxy has Druid up against Druid, Warlock, Warrior, which seems, 2 out of 3 seems fine. I think the mirror's okay. I need to look at the builds a little bit more in a second. But then Shaxy just having his Druid, Warrior, and Paladin, again, that Quest Paladin seems like outside of this Warlock, Shaxy's got a good lineup here.
Yeah, which is why I really liked the ban on the Reno Highlander Hunter from SamuelTsao there, because against obviously the Quest Paladin, that's a pretty good matchup, I think, for the Highlander Hunter. Druid and Warrior, I would say, especially with the build that SamuelTsao has, which is a slightly bit heavier than the usual build, I think it was a great ban by Shaxy. I almost wonder if SamuelTsao should have shielded his Highlander Hunter instead of going for the Zoo, but I guess they serve much of the same function here, whereas you can see Zoo, all the aggressive tools it's got, is still good at taking down the Druid and the Paladin.
Yes, it's one of the interesting things now where I start to wonder if people should be starting to drop Warrior or Druid, because the issue is if you presume everyone's bringing Warrior and Druid, you can then build your lineup to, say you ban out an aggro deck, well then there's one aggro deck and 2 slow decks, almost guaranteed, right? Because no one's playing aggro Druid, right? And that means that you have a solid chance to sort of counter a build, right? And we see, like, look at this. Like, what does SamuelTsao play? Say he just gets a win with this Warlock, fine. Well, then he has Druid, which is quite slow in some cases, and then Control Warrior against a Control Warrior that has Deathwing and 2 Vulpera Scoundrels and Zephyrus, so much more high value and high impact Control Warrior, Quest Paladin, and Nomi Druid with Quest. So I feel like even if SamuelTsao gets a win on the Warlock that I believe he's starting off with game number 1, it's still going to be tough for him to get another win based on what the rest of Shaxy's lineup looks like.
Yeah, I think that Shaxy has got the better end of the stick here. And I think, it's an interesting point that you make with respect to Druid, and as also Warrior to an extent as well. And I think this may be another reason where you could argue that APAC is maybe lagging slightly behind the other regions, where we've seen in Americas in particular, I believe, a lot of Druids fall by the wayside. A lot of players are cutting that from their lineup. And I think, whether or not that would be good in Americas is something for those guys to discuss. But here in Asia Pacific, with, again, it being a very aggressive lineup overall, an aggressive metagame with a lot of Zoo, a lot of Highlander Hunter, a lot of Priest now as well.
Yeah.
Maybe Druid was just the cut this week.
Yeah, potentially, because it's also a very, as you said, a very predictable style. When you play against it, you know what they are generally going to do almost every turn.
Yeah.
And if they don't do, and whenever they don't do that, you could say, well, you can't say that X, what if they've drawn X, Y, Z. But if they ever don't do the thing you expect them to do, then that's normally good for you.
Right, it's super
as
weak.
the opponent, right? Because you expect them to have these on curve from turn 5 big plays, and if they don't do that, well, they're not doing the big plays, so it looks good. But yeah, overall, I think I'm favouring Shaxy, not only in quality of play we've seen in Grandmasters, but also just builds. I think Shaxy, once again, has just shown some heads up in his play. We saw him bring Hecklebots last week. This week we see him bring Deathwing, Vulpera Scoundrels, and the Zephyrus in his Warrior. So it's like Warrior with way more punch, early game and late game, because the Vulpera Scoundrels are still just 3 drops. And then this Quest Paladin, which we've seen at the right moment, can seem almost unbeatable.
That's true, and I think against SamuelTsao's lineup, where he gets to ban away the Highlander Hunter after the Zoo was shielded, I think the Quest Paladin's still in a good spot.
Yeah, exactly.
I was almost expecting to see the ban on the Quest Paladin there for SamuelTsao.
Just take mirrors.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Quest Paladin feels so strong against Warrior, obviously. It's like the reason you bring it. And also pretty good, in my opinion, against the Druid as well, as we've seen. That it would only be one good matchup for SamuelTsao against it with the Warlock. But then it gets into not only his offensive reasoning, but also his defensive reasoning. He doesn't want to face his Druid into the Warlock. It gets pretty confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that seems to be a common theme. Waiting on SamuelTsao. I think he's just doing the last couple of seconds prep to get ready for the game, which is absolutely fine, of course. We're in no major rush. Today's been pretty quick overall. But Yeah, I don't know. I feel like SamuelTsao bringing the same stuff. The zoo list is pretty standard, although it's the Leroy variant along with Soulfires, which is the although not standard based on how often we've seen it, but you either play that or you play Sea Giants.
Yep.
So it's not like Highlander Zoo
Yeah.
or anything going on here from SamuelTsao, and his warrior looks like the most standard warrior list I've ever seen. So yeah, I think we're gonna really see a clash of Shaxy's flair versus SamuelTsao's just I'm bringing the 4 like
Yeah.
I don't mean flattest in a negative way, although maybe I do, but the 4 just almost taken from HS replay lists. You know what I mean? Like they're literally just the lists.
I mean, it's not inspired. Like
That's
it's
what I
not
mean.
created.
It's just
yeah.
if you want 4 decent builds of these classes, look at SamuelTsao's lineup. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But if flair and it's some inspired builds get you wins and you can pull it off, you should.
Bit of razzle dazzle
in
your gameplay. That's what Shaxy's got buckets of.
And already look at the impact type. Warrior versus Sue. Great first Q for Shaxy. And he has Time Cry, which is insane.
Yeah, he's running only 2 1-drops in this build of Warrior. It's worth saying that this is not the best anti-Zoo version of Warrior I've ever seen. It's actually a pretty weak anti-Zoo version in my opinion. No weapons project, which is obviously not great. There's a couple of things.
Level pair of Scoundrels, not perfect, but can pick up the slack.
They're alright. Yep, Slam's pretty alright as well. And obviously there's the Restless Mummies, the Dynamatics, and the Ziliacs, which is, I think, the main thing.
Most importantly, if Shaxy gets to turn 10, he can just Deathwing SamuelTsao, and Zoo has no comeback versus
It's
that.
true. It probably just
It's actually
dies.
just game, right?
Yeah, yeah. Because Zoo just damages itself so much at the moment. With
And he just can't kill a
Nephisites.
Deathwing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Unless you Tom him with Plague of Flames. He sees the future.
You would have thought the Deathwing would be immune to that.
Yeah.
It's like fiery, isn't he? That's his thing.
Yes.
Flamey.
Metally.
Metally.
Yeah. He basically gets goblins to craft scales, like armored scales, into him, which makes him more invulnerable.
That's pretty hardcore.
It is. The best thing, though, is, without going into overly boring lore details, no matter how powerful gods are, and any being in the World of Warcraft, at least universe, can always be killed by about 20 just average guys. You know what I mean? Like, you always find a way.
Who would win? An ultimate immortal being that created the world? Or 20 Steves?
Terrified of Steves. Now, there is just the slam, just to slam away the direwolf. Doesn't draw a card, but I think holding, having like Coin Dynomatic along with the Super Collider is more than enough mid-game, along with Brawl, along with Ziliax. I think it's more than enough mid-game to just say, let's just not let this get out of control early, use the slam, and let's go.
Comes to the decision that he wants to omit a card draw completely in order to get rid of the
I like it.
alpha. You think it's good?
Yeah.
I guess he's so dominant in the mid game anyway, as long as he doesn't take too much damage.
Are you not listening to me?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I
Derek's
was
just thinking
looking
about Deathwing now.
No,
It's like Deathwing armor plates would be cool.
I'm really sorry. I was looking at it and thinking about exactly that. And trying to form
So I was
what
meaning
gonna
like
say.
you can forget about that because there's Super Collider, Ziliax,
Right.
Dynamatic along Coin and Brawl.
I
There's
heard
all
that.
the mid game
I
in the
missed
world.
the start. Yeah. I'm really sorry.
I'll let you off, mate. This once. Do it again though, and we'll have a strongly worded discussion. Now, though, look at this. Like, this is it, right? With the Direwolf gone, obviously that's a great draw. But with the Direwolf gone, it's like, look at this board. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know, 4 damage. It's fine.
And I think with the Direwolf gone, just like it's only 4 damage, so I think it's pretty good here for Shaxy.
You're so funny, Derek. Worst part is, you actually are pretty funny, so it's kind of just a compliment. I don't insult people very well. If you
Nice
notice.
save there. Yeah, exactly.
Do you think this just should be double juggler? Just say, let's go. You've seen Slam. I don't know. I feel like SamuelTsao should feel like he's behind.
I don't think you can do that. I think it's just too weak to Dynamatic. Like, it absolutely destroys you if that comes down. Whereas going for a Thrasher play,
I guess.
it's weak to its own myriad of things, like obviously double rushing Mummy coming in.
Yeah, I guess it's really just this coin is just holding SamuelTsao back, isn't it?
Exactly.
In terms of Shaxy having the coin, I mean.
Yeah. Like if he went for double juggler there and it was the Dynamatic, I think that would just be game. Whereas this play, SamuelTsao he's got something. You know, he can get stuff going. The problem is, of course, that SamuelTsao's build is he's got stuff working for him and working against him in this build, because obviously it's a double Soulfire Leroy version of the deck, which means he has to do less damage in order to get burst to lethal, but he is less likely to be able to deal that damage because he doesn't have cards like Sea Giant or the eggs knocking about in there to give him that resilience. I'm looking pretty heavily at this on this turn, just coin Super Collider.
Just to get it alive.
Yeah, I think with Ziliax in hand, you can afford to take the damage on this turn.
You'll just kill the 2-1 then.
I guess. I'm wondering if you just swing into the 4-5. Like, okay, just chill. Yeah. This is fine. This is fine, I think. Because with a swing and Dynamatic next turn, I think you're very likely to be able to clear up most of what's going on.
Or I guess, I mean, it depends what the board state looks like. But even with swing Ziliax, you can actually end up killing off the Thrasher anyway. Ooh.
That's a tasty card to get off the top. It is, of course, heading into a brawl turn, but I think SamuelTsao needs to say, at this point, it's going into turn 5. He's not that likely to have found the brawl, and you're weak to it the whole game. You got to go in at some point.
Yep. If you play around the cards all the time, then you're not going to be playing any cards.
Wise words.
Already, Shaxy is under a certain level of pressure. We can see as Brawl, but Brawl is going to leave a minion up, so if there's a 5-5 left up, then does it ever become a bit of a problem?
This seems brawl-worthy to me, even if a 5-5.
This sets up like Ziliax, Dynamatic, etc. next turn. Oh, nice, got away with it too.
Yeah, you love to see that as a Shaxy.
But now there's Juggler, Direwolf Alpha next turn.
I still just hear Dire Alfalfa every time I hear that.
Really?
Yeah. Whenever anyone says it.
Oh, so not just me.
No, not just
you. Direwolf Alpha. That sounds
you
pretty
say
reasonable.
it perfectly normally. It's just Direwolf Alpha. Like alfalfa seeds, you know, it's like a food, alfalfa.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I think it meant Alf.
It's a very Brighton thing. No, not Alf.
That's why I was like, Dire Alpha. So the Alpha is Dire, but he is the Alpha.
Well, I guess that technically is what I hear. I do hear Dire Alfalfa.
There you go. I'm also interested to know what this food is, since you wiggled your fingers at me when you said it.
It's like sprouts. I was doing like little sprouty things. They're like bean sprout things.
Oh, okay. Because again, when you said sprouts, I thought of Brussels sprouts,
Oh,
which are
no,
not
yeah.
like finger-shaped
Wiggly
at
things.
all.
I wonder.
Do you think SamuelTsao needed to tap that turn?
Were you looking at just a
Play
little more
stuff.
all-in?
Yeah, I don't know.
I honestly don't know. It's so difficult to play these matchups where you're weak to nigh on everything. It feels like if you'd just gone all in there, Warpath would have been devastating. Just a swing and Restless Mummy or Dynamatic or Ziliax or whatever would have been so bad.
That's pretty nice. Ended up with a 1-5. Blocking out the Super
This was
Collider.
actually pretty good. So Dynamatic, I don't think he can get into a position where it clears everything, even with a swing, unfortunately. This is a weirdly tough turn here for Shaxy. And clears off everything but the juggler.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where things start getting scary, though, because SamuelTsao is running double Soulfire and Leap.
Throwing the dice a little bit here, and gotta be pretty happy with that outcome.
Yeah, it's not a full
I was
clip.
also thinking as well, like Slam, Hero Power, Shield Slam.
Oh,
And just get rid of the 3-1 and the 2-2. And then you've gained 2 armor.
Yeah.
You're using some stuff that's a little bit weird to use, and then you have like Ziliax and Dynamatic turn after.
I kind of like that this gets a mech in play, so that it either just trades on board, but also you have the potential for Ziliax next turn if they don't clear it off.
Yeah, if you're going to Dynamatic and kill the only 2 real threats on the board,
sign me up.
Yes, I'm done.
So many possibilities.
Again, Direwolf Alpha is there to push an extra couple of damage, and 4 total this turn without anything else, just the wolf, is a significant portion of Shaxy's health. Lackey, deal 2 as well, or you can get a spell, or an extra minion with Juggler, so all these have merit.
Oh. Ethereal Lackey, there's so many bad outcomes on it, but if you hit Soulfire, Solarium, even just like a Hellfire for a bit of extra push.
I think I like this.
Just taking always 2 damage. I think this is actually probably a read by SamuelTsao here in that he's seen Town Crier, hasn't seen Restless Mummy in several situations where it would have been good, so he knows Ziliax is almost 100% in hand for Shaxy. Which is why I like killing off the mech here so that it can't magnetize on. Well, there's the clear, right? With just Restless Mummy hero power and a swing.
I wonder.
Yeah, it looks pretty good actually, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think that's probably
The
better
beginning of
to
the
do
end.
on this turn. Yeah, because going up to 11 health, even Leroy plus Soulfire doesn't kill him.
Oh, you just gotta do this in slam. Fine.
Fair.
Get
Yeah.
Ziliax
Sure.
down,
Yeah.
heals, whatever.
I think this is
I guess this dodges like the silly losses that can occur.
Leroy double
Just
Soulfire.
Leroy Soulfire.
Yeah, yeah. And also it means that it's an uncontested Ziliax, so maybe it can just attack face next turn.
Yeah,
More
exactly.
lifesteal.
It's like this just gives you a chance, and honestly, Shaxy just needs one more turn because he has boom.
Yeah, that's the one. But he may not necessarily be able to get it. SamuelTsao does have a pretty strong swing here with Juggler Thrasher. But then we're looking at for Shaxy just homing in on lethal on his opponent.
So worst draw in his deck.
Yeah, that is the worst draw he could find. But still not defenseless. He could even gain health on this turn if he wanted to go Mummy Hero Power Shield Slam, but that does start to leave him
I think
very
he
defenseless.
just attacks, right?
Attacks Hero Power Shield Slam?
No, attack and then Mummy.
Mummy, okay.
Because then he saves, he has a 3-1, and he can armor up.
Sure.
He takes 2, but heals 2, so he stays on 11, and he has a 3-1 on the board.
Oh, and then he can attack into the Juggler instead of the 4.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's
attack
way
into the
better.
Juggler. Yeah, and then just use the Mummy to do the rest, and you keep a 3-1.
And you stay at that crucial 11 threshold.
Exactly,
where,
yeah. I
Leroy,
like this.
Yeah, I like this too.
And then, because of the 3-1, probably living next turn, it means that you can probably just land boom and then... Oh. Are we ready to ride?
That's the draw.
Close.
Wrong wolf.
Solarium. Oh.
SamuelTsao could get there. Limited armor gain here for Shaxy, and this is one of the reasons why for Shaxy last turn, I was wondering if we should have seen Shield Slam instead of an attack with the Mummy, because that would have been this turn. He can't go boom and Shield Slam, so he would have had a double swing of Restless Mummy instead to help clear up the board a bit more effectively. Whereas now, of course, he's left in a situation where he can't play Dr. Boom. I mean, he could play Dr. Boom.
So we can...
It's very risky.
Favorite card? The best card ever printed, Dr. Boom Scheme.
Probably not quite going to have enough time to mature into
So
a
morale,
powerful card.
Hero Power Shield Slam kills the Vulture.
Yeah. I like the look of that. He could also try and set up Plague, I suppose, but I guess that doesn't quite work.
No? Oh, okay, he's doing it. That's fine.
Attack. Yeah, okay, he gets the clear.
Take 3, leave an empty board, but he is susceptible
Oh!
to death.
The benefit of SamuelTsao deck could come into play here, specifically built for this exact kind of situation.
It's going to crack open the Solarium.
Can he find the boys?
Nope. Yep.
Oh!
GG! The Solarium got him there. Cannot believe it. So close.
The exact combination of cards he had to find. Double Soulfire wouldn't have done it. Leroy and Soulfire necessary to close things out. And Shaxy, in a game that just looked over in the mid game, he was just had so many tools to lock it down. Somehow, SamuelTsao, with some of the best play I think I've ever seen from him, just made the board so difficult to deal with, turn after turn after turn.
He built that very, very well, as he said, every turn. Some things definitely went his way with some of his draws. He could gain health on the Voidwalker. But also, as well, the Vulture timing just worked.
Yeah.
You know, if that was any other minion, the turn sucks, and then there's no swing required from Shaxy. I think there were other ways to sort of make that a little bit better, or the setup for it. But yeah, just very, very well played from SamuelTsao, and also rewarded for his deck choice this time, because he had Leroy, he had Soulfire. You can argue that a more board-focused deck would have done more damage, but really, Warrior often clears your board, and that is the only thing that can get the job done. Solarium made it work for SamuelTsao. Is he going to make Game 2 work for him as well? Find out after the break.
Legends say powerful treasures are hidden everywhere here in Aldoom.
If we hope to defeat Rafam, we'll need as many as we can get. He's already unleashed the ancient plague lords and countless monsters. Keep them distracted, Reno.
Not a problem. This plan is totally gonna work. Ain't that right, Finley?
Yes, I have them right where I want them.
There is an artifact here. The name is...
The scales of justice. Oh, it must be really fancy.
only to be used in a time of great peril. Yes, I think this qualifies.
Hey, look, Finley. You've lured one of the Plague Lords.
Take this, fiend!
In the face! Yeah! Hey, guys, get that treasure. We've got a Plague Lord to destroy.
Get these, hurry!
Not to worry, Finley. We just push this thing right here.
No, that's a trap. Watch out!
It's all good. I am totally tired.
Gracious me!
What we actually need to do is press this. And there.
A fish. No, it's the scales of justice.
Ah, who wants to use it first?
Oh, I do. Me. On second thought, maybe give it to Finley?
All you had to do is hold a rope.
Here we go, blaming the tall, ruggedly handsome guy again.
We are back with the last series of the day, continuing after SamuelTsao took game number 1 against Shaxy in an explosive end, but built up by some very, very solid zoo play.
Yeah, I liked a lot of what I saw there from SamuelTsao. I think this speaks more to his strengths as a player, a little bit less macro game oriented and more just making each turn the best it can possibly be. Whereas from Shaxy, I wonder if, I keep thinking back, are there any things he could have done, like shield slamming a turn earlier, maybe going for an earlier Ziliax, like you were saying, or an earlier Restless Mummy? Either way, it does mean that in this situation now for him, he still has his warrior. Obviously, SamuelTsao has got one with his shielded zoo deck and is left with his warrior and his druid up against druid, warrior, and paladin. The paladin here feels like it is the easiest deck to queue now for SamuelTsao.
For
Shaxy, of course, yes.
It is, and it's if he really rates order at this point because he has favourables. It's just you queue the paladin, but then if he wins and then loses the next game anyway, there's the whole argument. Oh, okay. Well, let's just go straight to it. Druid mirror for all the marbles here, and as you can see, another big impact match in Grandmasters now as SamuelTsao would go up to 3-4, and Shaxy would go down to 4-3. So Shaxy has the opportunity to again just kind of take great strides into the leaders of the pack in Division A, whereas SamuelTsao going at 3-4 looks in a much safer space when discussions of relegation could be concerned.
That's right, Shaxy could just cement himself as arguably the winner of Asia Pacific over the first 2 seasons. Even if he doesn't qualify through to BlizzCon at the end, it's not only about winning the tournament or doing the best in terms of actual results, it's about also being proud of yourself and earning the respect of other players. If he can, at the end of the 2 seasons of Grandmasters, hold his head high and say he played a good couple of seasons of Hearthstone, I think he'll be very proud of himself.
Yeah, and I think that's I think that description is true of Shaxy. I think he's brought some cool decks. I think he's played one of the best out of all the players, and he's done very, very well overall. But let's see what this looks like now, as SamuelTsao getting off to a pretty good start with that Crystal Merchant. Shaxy does not have that available right now, and he doesn't even have a way to kill this, so it's just going to be the Hero Power Pass. But then Oasis Surges as far as the eye can see.
Which is not necessarily the most important facet in this matchup. I would say that making sure you find a Nourish early on can be even more important. But it does mean that if it's left unanswered, Shaxy could just run away with a nice early aggressive start to this matchup.
Especially with Zephrys in hand, one thing you do want to do in this matchup, outside of draw all your cards obviously, is if you become the aggressor and your opponent has to spend mana dealing with it, they normally cannot flip the board in their favour outside of a very few choice turns, which means if you have the resources, which 2 sets of surges that you're pretty good at, then look at this now, right? SamuelTsao either plays Surge himself or tries to do something else to clear the board. If he plays Surge himself, then Shaxy just plays his Surger again. Unless SamuelTsao is another Surger, Shaxy gets to punch him potentially for 10 next turn, which is a big deal.
Bang, SamuelTsao very happy here with his vastly superior pool of resources at his disposal. Very happy to just trade 1-for-1 with Oasis Surges here.
And here's the question mark now. Nourish always feels great. Oh, the Anubis-Ath is a nice pickup.
So now we can see... Oh no, wait, we can't see Nourish double Anubis-Ath unless he wants to overdraw, which is not necessarily something he cares about that much. He's already got a lot of the good cards in the matchup. Floop, Nomi, King Feoris. He's got all the power cards apart from Zephrys. But I think because he has such a powerful turn here with the Oasis Surgery, I suppose makes sense.
This is where it gets interesting for me, right? I know you're a pretty decent fan of Floop with an Oasis Surger, but we can see that, funnily enough, in this game, that Shaxy can just play Swipe. And yes, it's not the best turn in the world, but suddenly, for cost of a Swipe and a good removal on that Surger, the Floop is gone. So now the cheaper options of, say, going King Feoris into King Feoris and so on, they're just gone for SamuelTsao now. That just doesn't exist anymore. SamuelTsao is almost back to playing an honest Druid game.
I almost wonder if that was a Nourish turn last turn for SamuelTsao.
I think I would have just jammed Nourish.
Yeah, right. Like he would have overdrawn 1 card, I think, because he was at 9, goes down to 8, draws 3 up to 11, so overdraws 1. Then he could have just dumped the Anubis-Ath, of course, and he does the same thing this turn anyway. And a bit unfortunate. There's obviously an upside in that he dealt with the board and therefore didn't take 5 damage after the Anubis-Ath is dealt with. but he's down a Floop, which is a big deal.
And he's doing everything a turn slower,
Yes,
kind of.
yes, exactly.
Which is my question, you know, my query, I guess, with the play.
It does ramp directly into turn 10, which is fairly important with King Feoris in hand, of course.
Time waits for no one.
And I wonder if he takes the Nourish purely for that reason of making a bigger king.
It would be a very, you know what, it would be a weird pick, and half of me hates it, half of me loves it.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm just split. Because the problem is, soon SamuelTsao will want to get stuff out of his hand, and he'll struggle. Which is the problem. But I 100% see the upside of this, and like I said, half of me loves it, half of me hates it.
I think if he was playing Elise, I would have liked it a lot less, but because he doesn't really have to worry about having a dead card in hand, just as a free 6 mana card on the board, I think it's pretty powerful. Probably the best thing he could have done.
A little bit annoying he can't. Oh no, he trades off the Anubis, right? Unless I'm miscounting, isn't that 7 minions he would summon?
Yeah, well, I'm just not sure if he goes for it on this turn. Is it ever a
Oh, you have
turn?
to, right?
Yeah, you're probably right.
It's
so good.
It's the issue.
So good.
If you spend removal, you do nothing else, and then Shaxy, although in a low hand size, so maybe you could argue that point, but if Shaxy then just refills again or plays other minions, you're like, oh, is this going to be too slow?
They haven't changed King Feoris to summon from left to right now, have they? Here we go. Oh my god, that is absolutely filthy. I think I'm going to be sick.
Can we get a bucket? I...
Look at that!
Yeah.
The Blood Stinger.
This could be a very quick end
The Stegatron.
to a long day. Well, most importantly, the Scenarius in hand.
Right.
It's like, yeah, kill the Stegatron, Shaxy. Give me room to buff all my dudes. +2/+2.
Okay.
Mental dislocating TC-130. Mental dislocating.
That was the card that brings Shaxy back into this game.
How do you like my floop?
Is this enough to even survive though? Just Scenarius or Starfall?
Double Starfall.
Yeah, Starfall.
Double Starfall, savagery. Here.
Double Starfall. So
Wait, why?
good.
Why? What?
Does he have active Zephyrus? No, he doesn't.
What? Double Starfall is the nuts.
Yeah, Double Starfall
It's
is actually
insane.
the nuts. Yeah.
And you... Huh?
I guess this
Is this lethal?
pretty much an
Am I
auto
being
win
stupid
anyway.
and this is lethal?
I don't
It can't be,
think
right?
So. No.
7 goes
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
6
yeah.
is the
No,
lowest,
no,
so
no.
6 goes in. It's not right.
Maybe he's afraid of an active Zephyrus on the following turn, but he's still afraid of an active Zephyrus. That doesn't
And
make
there's
any difference there.
15 cards in the deck.
Yeah.
Come on. Oh, man, that was the sickest double Starfall I think I've ever seen in Hearthstone, and it wasn't taken. Don't get me wrong.
I think it's
This is a lot of damage.
pretty much a lock victory anyway, yeah. That ain't doing it.
It's not, and just as quickly as it began, this series is over, and SamuelTsao gets a much-needed win on the board. Sorry, Siri was just going off. It was,
Not now.
That was really weird. It's not just dictate. The much-needed win on the board there for SamuelTsao, and Shaxy's going to take a loss, and I think for Shaxy, that one will hurt.
That one will.
Because the Warrior game versus Zoo was so close. It
Yeah.
was just on the cusp of becoming safe in the matchup. And SamuelTsao got it with Solarium into Leroy Soulfire. SamuelTsao played great, by the way. I'm not
I love
taking anything
that,
away from
yeah.
SamuelTsao. But then the Druid mirror, and that happens where SamuelTsao gets about 20 nourishes.
Yep.
And as you saw, Shaxy got none, which affects the game in such a massive degree. Again, I maybe overdid it, but I didn't quite see the reason not to double Starfall there. I guess he pushed the damage anyway, but
I think they're both 100%
Yeah.
victory lines.
anyway, that was that series and quite the one. So congratulations to SamuelTsao getting a win. That's going to be huge for him. So let's check out the standings and see where everything is shaken out. Let's look at SamuelTsao and Tyler now. They're like a good step away from Blood Trail, so they might not be feeling hyper confident about getting top 4, even though, as you can see, they're not too far away.
Yep.
They're not quite close to relegation anytime soon.
Oh, just look how close that middle is. 6 players right there in the middle, all trying to get through to that top 3, because I think at this point it's still possible, absolutely, that Blood Trail is not the player eliminated. There's still 3 weeks left. We could see Blood Trail finishing at a 7-7 scoreline, and any of the 3 and 4 players going down to, like a 3-11 scoreline. So absolutely everything can still shake up. But really, I think all of those 6 players in the middle are starting to look away from relegation towards advancing to the finals.
I agree, and I think that's the next focus. And speaking of that, Patra taking a win today is huge as she takes a step away from Blitzchung. But Blitzchung is playing tomorrow, and Patra is not. So if Blitzchung wins, we're back on the square game again in the bottom
neck
2.
and neck.
But if Blitzchung loses, then there's some level of breathing room. And if Patra gets another win, then this is going to be huge for her. And again, the rest of the pack kind of fighting for that top 4 spot. But honestly, looking at Glory, Tom, Dawn, and Staz, they're looking pretty solid.
Yeah, Staz is going to be playing up against Blitzchung tomorrow, which has pretty big implications not only for relegation, but also for that top 4. If Staz can go up to that 5-3 record, Frosty and Alutimi will start to be getting a little bit scared. Maybe they can't get through up to that 4th spot, because while it appears to me that in Division A, 2nd, 3rd and 4th are all very much up for grabs, I think in Division B, if not solidified quite yet, we're really going to see a scramble for 4th place.
Yeah, it's looking like that so far. Let's check out the matches that we've got coming up tomorrow, though, so we can see what else is going to happen. We've got Shaxy versus Chonsu, a chance to maybe shake off today's loss from Shaxy and take down the leader of the pack in Division A. Then we have Frosty versus Glory again, a big win for him. Not really because it brings Glory down, but more it bumps Frosty up into contention for 4th place. And then, as you said, Blitzchung versus Stars, SamuelTsao versus Surrender. So both winners from today going up against each other. And again, nice match going on there. And then finally, Rivius versus Tyler. Got a cracking day tomorrow, actually.
We really do. Tyler looking a lot more on form this week when compared to last week. Still, you know, as he self-admitted, just straight up copying Hunter Ace's lineup from last week. But Hunter Ace is pretty good, and he just hasn't lost this season of Grandmasters. So I think that's a very reasonable strategy to go for.
I'm still working on copying Hunter Ace's skills, and it's a
that can take a while.
Still, yeah. Still working on that one. But we are done for the day, apart from that one long Warrior Mirror. I feel like it's gone pretty quick, actually, and even that Warrior Mirror was pretty interesting, at least in parts. But yeah,
it's one way of describing it.
Interesting, the ultimate caster word of choice. But yeah, we are going to be done for the day. Thanks a lot for watching. As always, Europe's going to follow us along with America's, so stay tuned over the next X amount of hours as Grandmasters continues across the world. But from Derek and myself, we are done for the day, so we will see you tomorrow.